Welcome back. We here for a special episode of Reason and Doubt podcast. But like always, to start this thing off, I'm your host, the Supreme Pie Guy, Jay Sims. And to the left of me, we got Juice. And to the right of me, we got
look at his kicks, look at his car. All I say is
Joe Jack.
Big Joe Jack.
And to the right of him, we have the mayor of our city, mayor of the town. Coming up for re-election, we have Mayor Goins in the building. Thank you for coming through to the Reason and Doubt podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Special guest. Normally we have guests, but we call you a special guest.
You're a special guest.
That's what's up.
So, like everybody that's watching, if you're listening, you'll see this is a special episode of Reason and Doubt. You know, with the election coming up, voting is very important. We giving y'all an interview with the mayor himself. Long overdue. Should have probably been on the show, man.
For sure.
What took you so long? But we're here. But before we get started, Reason and Doubt today is brought to you by Goalie Nutrition. Go to goalie.com. Use promo code Reason and Doubt podcast to get your daily vitamins. They famous for their apple cider vinegar gummies, but also have multi-greens, everything you need. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I was checking it out.
Right there, you know. Joe Jack's favorite.
Ashwagandha.
Everybody love the ashwagandha gummies. Don't ask me why, you know. But
guess it kind of sound like Wakanda gummies.
But go to goalienutrition.com, use promo code Reason to Doubt podcast, get up to 20% off. You know, depending on the day, you might get 40% off. Just use that promo code Reason to Doubt podcast. And that's going to help you out. But back to the show. So the Reason to Doubt podcast, Mr. Goins, if you don't know, we're more of a music podcast, But you're such a special guy. We got, we invited you on here, But just to break the ice, you got to tell us, like, what type of music you into? We put you on to some Jeezy just a minute ago, put on for our city.
Well, you know what?
Musical preference, it says a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
So,
I like smooth jazz.
Smooth jazz. Okay.
I like smooth jazz. Obviously, I like gospel, and old school to my heart. So
what's old school though?
Old school when you go back to
because it was funny. I was talking to my daughter.
I mean, because a lot of people, old school for me is going back into the 60s, 70s, like that.
I was talking to my daughter, and she was telling me she liked old school, and she said 50 Cent.
Yeah, that's every generation has their old school.
I was like,
old school.
That ain't old school.
Like Marvin Gaye, Temptations, the Jackson 5, and just going up when Michael went solo and Smokey, but in this
soulful music,
real soul, R&B, but the one guy that I do really like. And it's like on my bucket list to see him before I leave this earth is Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars. I like Bruno Mars. You heard Bruno Mars in Sexy Red new record?
Yo, what's that now?
You heard Bruno Mars in Sexy Red new song?
No, I haven't heard that one. I'm going to have to check that out.
We're going to play it after the podcast.
Maybe so. I don't know. Maybe that's a little
it might be
I don't know that look on your face.
It's a little wild. It's a little different from the other Bruno Mars songs. I'm going to let you hear it. Sexy Red, she's from St. Louis, so it's a local, it's a local thing. But no, I appreciate it. I got, all right, one more music question. If you was on a deserted island and you can only take one album with you to listen to, what's that album you taking with you?
Thriller.
Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Can't go wrong with that.
It's a good choice.
So, but we here, Reason to Doubt podcast. We recording this. We're about a week out from Election Day.
A week today.
Week today.
Yeah, week today. 1 week from today, April 1st. April Fool's Day of all days.
Yeah.
To have an election.
So y'all fools get out there and vote.
It's a real thing. It ain't a joke.
Yeah, this ain't no joke.
Yeah, so we got this, and we just want to talk to you about the re-election. Just inform people on things. So first thing, like, this is your re-election, so could you just tell us a couple things, like a couple achievements that you did that you felt like were achievements? Shout out to A Media filming this. Shout out to A Media in the back.
Yeah.
I think before then, have you always wanted to be in politics? Because you like a slash guy, like Wallow. you got a lot of police officer, pastor.
Yeah.
And have you always wanted to be in politics? My
No.
question.
No.
Okay, so what led you there?
Oh, I don't. It was just kind of, I just felt this inner call. I had a back towards after I retired from the police department in 2010, and I started doing some, just doing some little side jobs, security jobs and different things like that. And during that time, I remember people would come up to me and ask me questions of like, you think you ever thought about running for mayor? Mm-hmm. And I really didn't, it kind of crossed my mind, but you ever thought about running for mayor? And, and I kept getting those questions. And then around about 2016, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I'm saying you 40 and over, brothers, get that prostate checked, because I checked it on a regular and found out my numbers was high, ran a whole bunch of tests and found out that I had prostate cancer. And so anytime that word invades your life, it really makes you pause and look at life in perspective. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about this, and at that time, I was getting up there where, you got more, you pass that halfway mark. That I say 50 to me is the halfway mark. You pass that halfway mark and you look at your life and think, man, I probably got more years behind me than I do in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I thought about just living life with more reflection than regret. Like you say, let's say purpose. Yeah. And so I just began to ponder about that, and I started thinking about, having that when you come to the end of your days and you wonder about those woulda, coulda, shoulda moments. Mm-hmm. And so I began to think about that, and I said, you know what? And it just kept coming back to me about, people asking me about running for mayor, and so that's kind of how it. And then I had to, pray about it and get some, inner peace about it, just to know this was a path for me. It wasn't on my radar, wasn't on my bucket list, wasn't what you want to do when you grow up kind of thing. It just one of those moments that you just say, okay, I'm going to pursue this.
I guess it's like people just always seeing a leader in you. Yeah. So it's like, it's fitting and like making a change, like the good police officers and their pastor, like that's like, you spreading the word. So it's like you always making a change or attempting to make a change.
Always trying to.
That makes sense.
Always trying to, be on the positive, working all those years in the police department, always try to treat people with the utmost respect, whether they had to be arrested or whatever the case may be, just to, and that went a long way. That went a long way with people who would come up to me now and say, "Hey, man, I remember you arrested me," and you treat, and they come up like a badge of honor. Yeah, he arrested me, and they wear it like a badge of honor, because of the way they were treated, or the way I talked to them and telling them, "Hey, people come up and say, hey, man, you changed my life." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Man, you don't remember, man. You came, when you arrested me and drove back to the station, and you talked to me, man. You said, hey, man, there's a better way of life." Or I stopped by one of the jail cells when I was working inside, and I talked to people. Or some people just say, hey, man, you know what? you could have arrested me, but you made me pour out that liquor and just sent me home. So
Well, I got a story.
Whatever.
I got a story. It wasn't like directly you, but we got arrested on the golf. Y'all arrested me. It was me and my cousin. And we was on that golf course in Cottage Hills, the one behind. My aunt lived out there for a while, and somebody. The story get a little mixed up sometimes. Yeah. Somebody allegedly had a rake and threw the rake, and one of the neighbors that the house is behind the golf course called the police. And so when the police showed up, right when we was hopping the fence to get off the golf course, y'all showed up. Yeah. And we went to jail.
Yeah. But did he show you respect or what? He ain't rough you up or
no, he didn't rough me up or nothing like that. And we was minors, so they took us down, and then my aunt Tina came and got us. The funny part is it was me and D, and then Brandon. But then Brandon had joined us later on after we allegedly threw the rake, and so he kind of got the ass end of the deal. And so Brandon was down there crying.
So as soon as he showed up, y'all got locked up.
Yeah. So that was a funny story, but I mean, since then I changed my life around. But
yeah, whatever.
No, it wasn't. We was doing something that we wasn't supposed to be doing, and then we went to jail. But I mean, I never heard nothing bad about you as far as being a police officer. So everything, to my knowledge, that you're saying is correct. Treat people with respect, and even though they doing stuff they ain't supposed to be doing, but you still treat them like a human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'd say when you say you pretty much had that life moment that made you reflect. Yeah. You know what I mean? And kind of think more about what people were coming up to you about. So once you, do you remember that day or that week or whatever where you actually made the decision I'm going to do this? Yeah. And what was that transition like for you?
June.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was in June 2019. Mm-hmm. June 2019 when because I wrestled with it. I wrestled with it for a long time, but I felt it. I felt it, and I was like, part of me was like, I don't know if I want to do this, And then there was another part of me like, this is. It's kind of like, I hate to use this, but I was looking at your coffee cup earlier. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the Mandalorian, when he says, "This is the path."
Yeah.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. Yeah, this is the way. This is the way.
Yeah.
And I said, "This is the way." And I was like, "This is not the path." You're right. This is the way. This is the way. And I just felt that was the way.
Mm-hmm. So I bring back the question. So reflecting, going on your second term. So reflecting on your first term, can you tell us about some of things that you deem to be achievements, things that you accomplished this first 4 years?
Well, one of the things, and when I ran for office, we were in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was probably some financial challenges. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things was, one of the platforms I ran on was financial recovery. Mm-hmm. So once I got in, we kind of find out that we was in a pretty bad deficit. Not to, it was because of the pandemic, 2 major floods that happened. One, I think, in 2019, another one happened in 2017. Mm-hmm. And it was a tough moment when I took office, man, I inherited a mess. I inherited, books hadn't been reconciled for 2.5 years, so you couldn't really do a budget or an audit. So we had to kind of just use the 2020 budget to try to just, so we can say we had a budget. Struggle to make payroll. Brought some retired people in to kind of help us catch up on our books, so that we can have our audit done. And then once the audit was done, we found out we was at a $3.8 million deficit. And I was like, wow. So we had to really be real disciplined in our spending patterns and
real intentional.
Yeah, real intentional. Like if you just don't need it, and you coming in new. I mean, there's no manual for how to be a mayor. It's no manual. It's just like you kind of learn as you go, and really the the whole experience when I first got in was like drinking water out of a fire hose, and it was just coming at you, and that's when you lean on your department heads.
That's what I was gonna ask. Was there anybody that kind of helped guide you through the process?
Yeah, I had these seasoned department heads that, I mean, sometimes people come in and they want to just clean house, and say, I'm just get all my own people in. And I was like, if I had done this before, and knew what I was doing,
You might be able to do that.
I might have done something like that. But since I was totally brand new, I wasn't really a politician. I ran for the school board, and and I ran unopposed, and still, that was that was a learning curve as well. And so, leaning on the department heads really helped get me through. And then I had to find a comptroller, a capable comptroller that can come in and roll up their sleeves and really get our finances, take a look at our finances and get us back in order. And so finally we got in May, and I think it was like September before we actually hired a comptroller. And when she got in, she's one of these people that just love math. It's like she loved math the way we talk about basketball. So and she just got in there, was able to figure some things out. And so in 2022 we knocked that deficit down in the 2022 audit. We knocked that deficit down to like a $1.8 million deficit.
Okay.
So we still, we climbing, but we ain't out the hole.
Yeah.
So then the third year, we finally, so things started turning. Some fortunate things started happening in regards to taxes and different things like that, and more, different, because the city is ran on basically, taxes and tax monies and different things, and so there was some fortunate increases that came in, like CPPRT money and different things like that, and so and then everything was stabilizing, and so we were able to finally report that in 23 had like a $2.3 million surplus.
Okay.
In our audit.
That's a big change.
Yeah. And then last year, our audit, we had a $7.7 million surplus. And the caveat to that is that a chunk of that money was the American Rescue Plan Act money that had been sitting, waiting to be spent. And finally, and when you finally spend it, you have to count it as revenue.
Okay.
So that was the bump, $7 million. And so, but I asked my comptroller, I said, well, what would it? I said, take away the ARPA money. Are we in a surplus or deficit? She said, oh no, we're still in surplus. We're still about a $3 million surplus. Okay. So that was good to know. I hated to hear like we take away the ARPA money, we were in a deficit. We were still in a surplus, and so we were
going in the right direction.
Yeah, we were going in the right direction. So I think that was a great achievement. The other thing is our infrastructure, and I know people holler about potholes and they holler about the streets, and to be honest with you, we did in 4 years' time, we've done at least 37 streets. And they will tell you that that's probably the most streets that's been done by any administration. I can't go all the way back, but I'm just saying. And we had to start slow because of our financial situation. We couldn't really just jump out there and just throw a lot of money to our infrastructure. But we began slowly, churning it out and getting roads resurfaced and working with our city council and then with the American Rescue Plan Act money, we were able to utilize money from there that you couldn't utilize when the money first came out because it was only designated to be in like 4 different categories. And so they expanded the use of the money over time to the point where you can actually use it to fix streets. And we were able to spend a significant amount of money to do streets. But and I think just getting our infrastructure, getting our and the other thing was bringing our departments back up to speed. There were a lot of things, that because of this, the past, a lot of things got left undone. And so we were able to utilize some of that ARPA money to upgrade our buildings. We upgraded all of our municipal buildings with brand new HVAC systems. We had put solar on our public works building that took a $3,000 electric bill down to $325 a month just by using solar. We also updated a lot of equipment. Different departments, like our fire department, was without a ladder truck when I first took office. And I remember the fire at McDonald's, and I remember sitting there, and it was like, asked, "Where's the fire truck?" He said, "Oh, we're waiting. We got to wait for this." I think it was Blackjack. They've come from Blackjack, Missouri, or whatever.
The ways of fire.
And I was thinking that's a lot.
You outsourced to others.
Yeah. And because you got that mutual aid. Mutual aid is that's the one thing that's good in regards to fire departments and even police departments. You can always get on the horn and call for help. Yeah. Other municipalities come running, and so now for the police, it's basically everything on the Illinois side. But for the fire, it's mutual aid. You can actually request help from across the river as well. So one of the things that we put together ARPA spending plan. Myself and the department heads, we had meetings, and we basically, I came from a basketball background, so I said, well, this is how we're going to do. I said, let's identify what are slam dunks, let's identify what are layups, and let's identify what's a free throw, and let's identify what's a three-point shot. It's like 3-point shot is like, that's pie in the sky. We ain't want to fool with that.
Less percentage.
Yeah. We said we want to do slam dunks, and that was like a fire truck, 2 new ambulances for the fire department, police department, new vehicles, public works. We needed a new street sweeper. We needed a new paint striper. We needed a new hot box to help fill potholes in a very, very high rate. Paint striper because the old paint striper was painting lines and it was crooked and it wasn't looking good.
Pause that real quick. Use basketball reference. How good was you in basketball? Was you nice in basketball back in the day?
Well, nice enough to be player of the year in 1978.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Talk your stuff.
You know what I'm saying?
Telegraph area player of the year, honorable state, honorable mention all state. I didn't, you got to be on our team wasn't that good, so you got to be on a top-notch team to make that kind of.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, like you.
Yeah. No, I use a basketball reference. I never asked you before how good you was in basketball. I never knew.
Yeah, it was, just like the Gallatin Awards that they have every year.
Yeah.
I mean, and they always posted, but if I just went there to offer prayer at the awards this past Sunday, and Alton girls just swept it.
Yep. And shout out to my nephew, Samaj Stampley, player of the year.
And so, I mean, every time you look at that list, you go down to 1978. This was before girls, basketball was in vogue.
Yeah.
In 1978, I was that player of the year for the area.
So okay, he legit.
You check out.
He checks out. No, I love everything you saying about the first term. But what are the things you looking forward to in the second term?
Well, in the second term, we're looking forward to really kind of building on what we've done, continue working on our infrastructure, continue building our streets. We're proud of the economic development that we've done in regards to bringing in the new businesses along Homer Adams Parkway. But we have some more goals in regards to hopefully bringing in some more chains and obviously still supporting small business as well. And
can we get a Five Guys?
Hey,
that shit too. That's too high. We don't need that. I ain't got no money now.
You know the whole
Chick-fil-A would be nice or something like
Chick-fil-A
that.
would be cool. I'll settle for Chick-fil-A.
Chipotle.
We was this close.
Really?
We had it.
Yeah.
And then some red tape kind of came in that was way beyond our control.
Okay.
But we had Chick-fil-A was ready to come right there at the Shogun restaurant.
Man.
It was there, but because of the traffic congestion that was going to be potential because of the closeness to those two intersections with Washington and Homer Adams and Humbert.
Yeah.
And then you come down to Homer Adams and Washington.
You're right.
And then right down there is the next stop sign is Homer Adams and Humbert. And IDOT was concerned about that congestion, and they were starting to put some kind of, I don't know what it was, but
well, we can tear down the Popeyes and start over because it's disgusting. Yeah, I ain't ate Popeyes in a couple years, man. So look, that's one thing.
Let's put it back on the table for this next term.
Yeah, let's get let's
still. I mean, we're you know, I mean, I can't say, but we're hopeful.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, I'm not saying anything that was secret because it was out there. People knew and they had heard that Chick-fil-A was coming. But then it just kind of – and this is the thing about understanding how business work. You know, these businesses, you know, because it's not as easy as just calling up somebody and saying, hey, can you come and put up a store here and everything like that. I mean, they got corporate. They got to do feasibility studies. They do all of these different studies. And one thing I learned is that from the time they make a decision to groundbreaking can take 3 years.
Long process.
And any time between that process,
It can fall through.
they can pull out. So, yeah, but
So just still talking about the second term. So your opposition, you got former mayor, is it Brent Walker?
yes,
And then you got Alderman Raymond Strable.
yes.
What, like, you running against these two, like, what's like a difference between your plans and their plans that sticks out to you? Just, I know it's a lot, but just one thing that you just
Stand on
that you don't agree with what they own.
Well, I don't agree with all the lies they telling. First of all,
Yeah.
you know, and when you on that and the thing is, it's like, okay, housing, especially, you know what, because everybody believes that they can do better than the person that's in there. That's what politics is all about. And I ran on that, but I kind of had an advantage because of some missteps that the former mayor had made that kind of like sunk his ship. So it just kind of like really kind of opened the door for me to kind of walk in.
What happened with him?
That was his wife was caught during COVID.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Made national news. You know.
Oh yeah.
I think I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah, but you know, and I mean, but they always say they're gonna fix the roads better.
That's what they said.
Yeah, they're gonna fix the roads better. They're gonna come up with a better plan to, for the economy and the reality is that, you know, when this guy sat on the council, sat on the city council with me, he, and he claimed that I did this and I claimed I did that. I said, well, if I did this and I did that, then you party to it as well, because I can't get anything done a lot of times without council approval. Mm-hmm. So, but it's, you you find out that if they could tell the truth and just say, what it is, I mean, what they really do, instead of trying to just sling mud, and try to just kind of tear you down. Like I know one said that I tried to sneak a low income subsidized housing project through without. And I didn't try.
This is not true.
It's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not true. Or that that I ran on the whole idea of Sunnybrook, and I got Sunnybrook built. I didn't get Sunnybrook built.
Well, Sunnybrook.
Sunnybrook is the development going down there by Old Brittany Court.
Okay, that's
on Washington Avenue,
right next to that.
Right, up just up the hill from the police department, where you go in Washington, and that was a project that just needed some different things done, and it didn't. And the lie is that I pushed it through and made it happen. And basically, it's like any other business or entity. You go get a building permit. It doesn't need council approval. That's part of the day-to-day operations of how things work.
So, are these things stressful to you? Like, is it like how much is it like? It's dirt off your shoulder, or is it like
it's annoying?
It's annoying.
Yeah. It's really annoying, because you're trying to do things the right way. You're just trying to be upstanding, but at the same time, I go by the motto what Michelle Obama said, is that when they go low, we stay high.
But it seems like politics nowadays, it's like that don't even work no more. Like when they go low, you gotta go to the flow with them.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta stick to your principles.
Exactly. Yeah. Morals and principles. We big on that.
You stick to your morals, and you stick to your principles, and you don't stoop.
But when you see what's his name, the alderman, when you see him getting into a little thing, do you laugh a little bit? Because what happened with him? He got caught on tape.
Yeah,
looked like he was trying to get involved in some stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of.
So you kind of that. Well, how that make?
Kind of tickle you a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a sinister grin.
Yeah, that's it's like. Sometimes that is just believe.
Or maybe it's just karma coming back.
Yeah, karma, you reap what you sow.
Yes, sir.
So, but you gotta. He got to deal with that, and so whether that would that affect the election, I don't know. But you know what? My grandmother always say, "Time will tell."
Time will tell. That's everything.
Mm-hmm. So, y'all got anything for him?
I mean, I was gonna say, so it kind of seems like your approach to it is that you just are focused on building, what you have already done, you and your team have already done, and obviously letting the community know what you are planning to do moving forward.
Yeah,
and it seems like their approach is to not really explain what they can do or what they can help do, but just what that they can do that you aren't capable of, that they think, or what it is that they think they can do better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
To where you're kind of more, clear sighted as far as tunnel vision, and they're trying to, kind of swerve you off the street a little bit. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
it's almost like, to me, it's you.
That's the game.
Like you the champ and they the challenge.
Yeah.
So it's like they gunning for you.
And it's a different seat. When I was a challenger, and I didn't run a negative campaign then. Right. I mean, I got a lot of compliments on how clean the campaign I went. We just presented facts. We didn't, a lot of. I mean, I'm telling you, this one ad came, and I was looking. I was like, man, that is so untrue, and I gave you a perfect example. Like I refused. He introduced this street program. Well, it wasn't. He presented a resolution to do this thorough street study program, and we would have to employ Shepherd Morgan and Swab. I'm not Shepherd Morgan and Swab. I'm sorry, Shepherd SMS engineering. They would have to do this comprehensive street study to identify all the streets and different things like that. And it's a comprehensive study. And then, and it passed through, council passed it. And then, because he introduced it, he turned it around to make it seem like, well, where is it at? How come, Mayor Goins, how come you haven't implemented this plan? Well, this plan takes 6 or 7 months to implement. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, but then on his mailer, it says that I failed to implement his plan. Well, I can't implement the plan because the plan's not ready. SMS is still 3 or 4 months out because we're talking about identifying and every street in the city and grading every street in the city, and it doesn't take it. But it's just he just used it as political fodder to make it seem like I wasn't doing anything. Just even with Studio 420 made it seem like I didn't do anything with Studio 420. We were making all kind of inroads with Studio 420 behind the scenes, doing a lot of things, and then he wanted to jump in. That's why it kind of bit him, because that wasn't we were working on Studio 420. We were going in doing the buys and doing different things like that, and catching them selling underage, and then finding out about the marijuana, how he was not selling it in the right percentage, and things, and he eventually got shut down. But and then state's attorney told him not to have a business in here, but then just listen to the tape. You'll see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's on the tape, huh? Yeah. So,
it's kind of raw.
Huh?
I like this kind of raw.
Oh,
Yeah, but like you said, as long as it's facts,
yeah,
and it's public information. Yeah. So
you see, politics. We getting older, so I am more aware of politics. I feel like a lot of things that happen in politics nowadays is so like publicized. It's like entertainment now. Like when I was a kid, it wasn't nothing that you watching. Like they wasn't saying nothing too crazy. So
right.
people. But I feel like with politics nowadays, when you got Trump and everything in office, you have to pay attention because
you do.
It's like they doing stuff right in front of you that can dictate your life and everything like that.
So nowadays they play in your face.
Yeah, so it's like when it comes to this, like you saying, it's raw, but it's really
it's real.
No,
I should say real,
but because it's coming from a real place. Because we really come in here, we trying to get some knowledge from you from our perspective as young black men that never really were into politics, but you see the things going on in the world now. Now we're more into it, so we want to hear from you firsthand. So speaking on young black men, like we live in Alton, Illinois. Alton, Illinois is pretty small, but it's been like just this generation. They call them YNs now. I don't know if you know what a YN is. I ain't gonna say it though. I'll tell you off camera. But
young guys,
young guys. You see the young black men in Alton, Illinois, and we got some great, upstanding young men that I'm real proud of. But it's like a generation like that nowadays. I can't say it's worse, but it's different.
Yeah,
you see, it's just a little different. I feel like us as just the older generation and stuff like that, like me and my friends, we got to do things to uplift and give them more opportunities to do things, give them more people to look up to and show them that everything don't have to be like in the streets or anything like that. Do you have anything that like just for our inner city youth that'll help like programs maybe or something just to get them on a different path?
Yeah, because it ain't none. Like outside of the Boys and Girls Club, but you kind of outgrow the Boys and Girls Club. It's nothing really past that.
Because I think that's just something that I'm looking forward to, and it's something that we want to do. Like you've been to our events that we do in the summer at Salute Park before and stuff like that. Just give them something to do. But I think that's just something. I feel like when we were kids, it was more things to do outside in the community, stuff like that.
And I think that because a lot of times, a lot of things like fall on, well, what's the city going to do? And it takes more than just the city. They're limited resource. It takes all of us. And you know, and the truth be told, in some of these cases, it really starts at home. It really starts at home. It really
100%.
starts at home. I mean, it's just real talk, because sometimes the decisions kids make are a product of what they've been
The
exposed
environment.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, the environment.
And I have a mother come to me and say, we need to be, they need to come up with more of these youth to do. And I was like, you know what? You as a parent have the responsibility to make sure that your child is involved. I mean, when you sit back and just, let your child run wild, run rampant, then he get in trouble, and now you want to come and ask the city, well, what are you going to do? Because my child needs something to do. Well, what have you been doing the past? That's just one example.
Yeah, I was like,
They kind of go together.
I agree with you to an extent, but I don't agree too, because it's just like, I get it, but it's like, ain't it always, it takes a village.
It takes,
and I feel like that parent may be having to deal with a lot to raise their kids.
For sure, they dealing with a lot, and maybe that's not the best example.
What you said was real though. It do start at home, and it start with accountability.
Yeah,
and so if you're not doing your job, because you're the first step of the process. This is your child. This is your product. So if you're not, doing what you're supposed to do at this step, how I'm supposed to do what I'm doing at this step. We missing. It's like a disconnect somewhere in there.
I know I hear a lot of people say, "Well, we need a community center," and a community center is a great idea, but that's something that it'll take a whole community to put together, and that community center is not going to be the silver bullet to all the ills and the ails of the city. I mean, we have programs. And obviously, we try to work with the schools. We try to partner with the school to do things, working with not-for-profits. There are many things to do. And one of the biggest things I think that's going to really help for, to give a child some, maybe an inroad is just like with this Wedge Innovation Center that's coming. That's going to create a lot of opportunity for startups, entrepreneurs.
What is that?
What is the Wedge? Yeah,
Wedge Innovation Center, the one, when you go down Broadway and see that wedge-shaped building that was bought by Alton Works, and they're almost ready to open, but it's Wedge Innovation Center. They're going to, SIUE is going to be housed there, and another group out of St. Louis. But it's going to provide a platform for young people, because this is where it's at for young people who are creative like this, like technology, for entrepreneurship, for startups, and there'll be opportunity. I'm working with a young black man from St. Louis who's working on my campaign, who's working in close, and he's just really been giving me all of this insight as to how we can really help bridge that gap between the kids don't have anything to do versus, because, you got your regular, you got your sports, you got your, I mean, there was just and I know it's a different generation, but I never was like, I ain't got nothing to do, because like I said, we went outside, we created, we went outside and played, we went outside and did this, or our parents got us involved in saying, hey, you're going to, you're going to play an instrument, or you're going to do something, because it's like, I look at some of my, I got grandkids, and these grandkids are, they parents got them involved in everything. They got them involved in martial arts. They got them involved in music. They got them involved in sports. They got them involved in, like my daughter-in-law, she has this group called Be a Bridge, where she's working with youth at a certain age, just giving them a space to come to be themselves. And so there is, and so we're reaching out, trying to make as many inroads as possible to help, our young people just, not rely on that big pie in the sky. I want to make it to the NBA, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. But something that's going to,
I don't think we didn't know about the wedge thing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I just want us to not be, a lot of people are afraid of the youth, almost like they kind of scared. Like we kind of got.
Oh, I ain't scared of them.
I ain't know you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying like just people. They just think negatively like of all the youth, and like I think it's a lot of things that we can just do better as a community, just to.
Yes.
Try to understand.
To understand a little more and just show them it's other ways. Like us doing this podcast, like being creative and using your mind, like it's a new generation. So it's new things like YouTube and things that these kids can be doing. And instead of like turning our back on them, we kind of try to embrace them. So just different ways.
Yeah. But I think it's on us, like as far as like, 'cause we, you got the YNs, like he said, the young people. And then we got, the older people, the middle-aged people. We in the middle, so we can help bridge that gap. You know what I mean? So we be like it's almost like a mediator. You know what I mean? I can come get the information from them and then bring it back to y'all. And then get the information from y'all, bring it back to them. Just so they'll understand it better.
Everybody doesn't have all the answers. And I think
Nobody do.
It takes, just trying to, just even with the child-friendly cities initiative that we're working on, trying to make Alton a child-friendly city, because I had the privilege of serving on this group of smart people. I'm talking about smart people, and they asked me because I was newly elected. They asked me to be on this group, and we did, and it was basically just identifying all the factors that go into, reason why a child ends up in a certain situation. Because we're talking about health, we're talking about food, lack of healthy food. We're talking about lack of proper health care, nutrition, and we identified all these factors because all of these factors go into, what affects and how it influences a child. And so, and it was real eye opening to sit there and to see that, and they came out with this plan, and one of the things I shared it with the people at UNICEF, just to show, what I had been involved in and how it kind of fits in, because you're looking at, you ask a child, what makes you feel happy, healthy, and safe. And we were going out to the schools, going out to the basketball games, set up tables, and we had the kids doing videos saying what makes you happy, healthy, and safe. Or if you had a magic wand, what 3 things would you like to see in Alton, and things of that nature. And so just hearing from the children and really just giving children a voice. And that's something I really want to, pursue going forward, and working with the NAACP Youth Council to really begin to just tackle these issues and talk about these issues and see what we can do.
I think that's important because that was actually something we touched on. It was a little while ago now, but it was something that kind of went around that a lot of people had a comment on, was just talking about the differences in generations and upbringings. And one thing we talked about was, kind of in the other generations, it was like when you were a kid, you wasn't really allowed to speak up about a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Kind of what happens in the home stays in the home type of thing. So now, and that was one of my points, was kind of what you just alluded to, was getting in front of these kids and really asking them what are their situations at home, and allowing them to have a voice to kind of tell you what's going on. Because that was something that I was telling them about. I have a youth football team, and I deal with a lot of inner city kids who, might have one parent at home. Some have 2, most don't. You know what I mean? Most of them are raised by single mothers and things like that. So this situation where, you know, I pick a lot of them up, take a lot of them home, and those are the times when I use to talk to them, you know, instead of just blasting music, you know, dropping each one of them off. I'm sitting back and I'm talking to them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I realized that, you know, some of the kids that most would say, oh, he's a bad kid, or he's troubled, or he has behavior issues, whatever the case may be, when you really break it down and get to the bottom of talking to that kid, you realize that kid just got a lot going on in their mind and a lot of experiences. Lost. They just lost.
They're just lost.
And one of the biggest takeaways I got out being with this group is addressing childhood trauma.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Childhood trauma is, especially if it happens in those formative years of 0 to 5. I can speak to childhood trauma. I can speak to, you know, everybody thinking, oh yeah, he's this, that. You know, I can speak to understanding that growing up. You know, I grew up and lost my parents.
Lost both your parents.
Yeah.
With your grandparents, right?
Yeah. Grew up abused, bullied. So I'm trying to be that voice to a generation that says you don't have to, you know, let those experiences define you.
Right.
You don't have to, but it takes. For me, it was a guy that, you know, after I lost my father, named Ed Hightower, who kind of really was kind of like a mentor to me growing up, and kind of was that father figure that really, you know, helped me stay on the straight and narrow, and obviously basketball was a thing, and you know, then they talked me into going out for track, and I didn't know nothing about track. You know what? I went on out for it.
Yeah. Shout out to Ed Hightower. Shout out to Andy Hightower too.
They OGs in this community for sure. I think it's I think they just more misunderstood, and I think, like I said, I think a lot of people just automatically judge them instead of trying to understand them.
Right, and you know, and I've had the privilege in my lifetime to really work with youth and go out. You know, I mean, I started out working at the Madison County Juvenile Detention Center. You know, and working as a home detention officer before I became a police officer. But one of the things I was able to do is like go out to Pierre Marquette and speak to the youth out there. Go out to, you know, and go and talk, and I use this, and I took a story, and it's an old story. You know, a lot of kids don't even watch anyway. But my leg is cramping now. You laugh, you get old. You know,
I already know. Somebody as tall as me, man. I know your pain.
And so anyway, and I was involved in this. I don't know if you heard about it back in the day, Joe. It was Camp Success.
I went to
Camp Success.
I went to everything.
Yeah,
everything. Minority Excellence, Camp Success, Upward Bound. I was in all that.
But
you was in Upward Bound?
I was in all that.
How you ain't finished school?
Let him finish the story. We'll talk about it.
Kids at the detention center. I was talking to a group of kids at the detention center. I was a speaker, and I shared the story about the Wizard of Oz, and I heard this story presented by a motivational speaker when I was at a DARE conference, and he took the Wizard of Oz story and spun it as it relates to youth. Dorothy wasn't this. You know, Dorothy was the troubled teen. She was the troubled teen who was just looking to find herself, and that the Scarecrow was somebody. Actually, he was labeled as the dumbest of the group, but he was actually the smartest in the group. The Tin Man, who was labeled as somebody who was hard, had this hard exterior, but he actually had a heart, you know. And so I kind of spun that around. I kind of put my own spin on it. But when I was telling the kids, and I was like, you know, hey, what you in here for? I'm in here for car theft. I was like, car theft? Like, I said, yeah. I said, you know what? I said, you're the Scarecrow. I said, because it's not that you're dumb. You using your brain for the wrong
thing.
I mean, if you smart enough to get into a car and hotwire it.
Yeah.
You got a brain.
Yeah.
You just using your brain to make poor decisions.
You need to be an electrician or something.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Well, I don't know what wires to touch.
I mean, it ain't that easy as they do on TV. It ain't that easy.
No.
I'm telling you, it's not that easy as you see it on TV. But just seeing them, seeing the potential in them, seeing what they could be, and not what they are. Yeah. Because every child still has potential.
That's what I say.
And it doesn't take them to have to, because I'm, as being a police officer, you see generations. You see their father. You deal with, I deal with their father, and now I'm seeing police officers dealing with the children and the grandchildren of that same father.
It's a cycle.
Yeah. You see that cycle. But it can be broken.
It can be broken.
It can be.
For sure.
It can be broken.
And so I think one of the major things with, like I said, the young boys is like I said, they more misunderstood, and instead of judging them, take the time to understand them and stop comparing generations. Yeah. Because when we had it, and when this is different. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's like your generation different than our generation different than their generation. We got to communicate, try to figure out, how the best way to get through to the kids. And I think one of the most important things is like, yeah, you talking to them, you trying, somebody else trying or whatever, but it's about the message, it's about the delivery, and it's about who's delivering the message. So it's just like, I might be, I might not have the best voice. He might be the singer or whatever, but I got a hell of a pen. And so like this is my role. You know what I mean? It's not gonna sound good coming from me, but I'm gonna give it to him, and then he's gonna deliver it. I think that's one of the major problems in our city. It's like the kids ain't trying to hear that from that person. Point blank, period. Right. Not directed towards you, but it's just a lot of the people, and they mean well. They're trying, they setting this up, they doing this, but them kids ain't trying to hear from that person. You know what I mean? I think so. Give it to the people that the kids look up to, the people that the kids admire, the people that the kids aspire to be like. Let them deliver the message.
And I'm hoping, just in my role as, not so much, I don't want every child to be, a mayor, but to be the first African American mayor in the city. I hope that this will provide a platform for children to say, well, if he can do it, I can be this.
Yeah, for sure.
If he came from this and he arrived here, hey, I was told. It was told to me that I wasn't going to amount to nothing.
Yeah.
But I just kind of, like I said, I had a grandmother who took us in and really told me, hey, everybody's, say you ain't going to amount to anything, the family members, after my dad passed away when I was 11, my mom died when I was 7. So it's like, cause my sister was like this straight A student. And nobody was worried about her. Mm-hmm. They said that David, he ain't gonna amount to nothing. My grandmother pulled me to the side, told me what some other family members were saying, and I remember those 3 words that she said: "Prove them wrong." Mm-hmm. Prove them wrong. And that was the thing about it, as far as motivation goes. When I talk to kids, is everybody has to have their own motivation. They got to find their own motivation that's going to propel you. And so that was it. Now, if you came to me and told me, "Oh, you can do this and you can do this," that's when I freak out because of the expectation. Mm-hmm. But don't mess around and tell me what I can't do. Yeah.
But that
will motivate.
But that's probably how she knew how to get you. Part of being a good leader is being able to communicate and talk to everybody differently. Like some people, you can be like, "Get out there and get it. I know I got faith in you." You know what I mean? But some people, like you said, you like, "Man, they saying you ain't gonna be able to do it." Mm-hmm. And then that you got to be able to,
that's the whole point of reason to doubt.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I named it that, because in your whole life it's going to be people that doubt you on things, and we all deal with it. So we all got to overcome that. So we almost wrapping this up. I just got a couple questions left, but with voting coming up, so can you tell people about, you got the Souls to the Polls?
Yeah, Souls to the Polls. It's Saturday, March 29th, this coming Saturday. Mm-hmm. We're meeting up at Killian Park.
Salute.
Just don't even sound right. It's always been Salute Park.
James Killian Park Salute.
Yeah, James Killian
Salute.
Park at Salute. Yeah. Shout out to James Killian, who was my Sunday school mentor, another mentor in my life. Okay. So, mad respect for him and the Killian family. But we're trying to get souls to the polls. And so it's actually the day that my wife and I are going to vote. And so kind of like we want people to come and join me and my wife to go down to the Scott Bibb Center. And so we're going to meet at Killian Park, Salute Park, at 10 a.m. and we're going to caravan. We got buses. We got groups donating like buses or vans, so you can actually park and ride to the polls. What we're going to do by caravan, we're just going to all go down there together, try to get as many people down there together to pad those votes, and then once we get done with that, anybody needs a ride, we'll take them. Anybody that rides down there instead of drives, we'll take them back to the park to their vehicles. And then at 12 o'clock, we're going to have a voters rally where we're going to be giving out, free food, and snacks and drinks, and we'll have a DJ there playing music, and we're going to have a voter rally from 12 to 2, just to kind of celebrate, the souls to
participation.
So this is Saturday, March 29th?
Yes. The last day of early voting.
Last day of early voting. I got a question. Did the mayor, this is off topic, but it's on topic. Gordon Moore Park. That's Alton still, right? Why Gordon Moore ain't got no basketball court?
On the record or off the record?
I got a theory, but go ahead. I need it. I need to know, because I think, me personally, I'm just gonna say I think it's racist. That nice park, they got everything besides the
Probably
hole.
the nicest part.
I kind of don't want to go out there no more.
After the hole,
after them sinkholes.
I don't know if I've been back since.
No,
but it annoyed. I was like, y'all done did all this in this park. Y'all ain't got no basketball. What they think? They just gonna go up there and just gonna turn into jail ball, prison ball, or something like that. I don't like that at all.
I've heard some things, but I can't go on record and say.
Yeah.
Put it on your second term. Just put that on there. Like, let's go get a basketball court.
Like, I'm with Juice though. We made it a whole nother park.
So what happened with that?
As long as that park has been in existence, them mines have been under there.
Yeah.
That park was built on top of those mines.
Yeah. So like, is that you? What's the deal with that? Like, is that? Do we know if that could ever happen again, or do we know like the main reason why that happened?
We're hoping to get a report back soon from New Frontier Materials.
Okay.
What they've been doing, and I just recently reached out to them because initially they said the report would be ready by the end of February, first part of March.
People that don't know, it was a big sinkhole. Sinkhole that happened at Gordon Moore Park. I might have seen it
On the news.
Thank God nobody got harmed or anything like that, but it was crazy.
It was just one of those. It was an anomaly because they this mine is active mine. They've been mining under there for 75 years, and it's amazing. I've seen pictures. I haven't gone down there, but I've seen pictures and the way they have it set up. Because this it's a limestone mine.
Yeah.
And when you talk about what has built our infrastructure over the years, concrete, rock, asphalt, everything over the years has come out of that mine over the years. And there was what they call a rock shelf that wasn't as
Stable.
as the other ones, because it's like when you start drilling, you have to make these big pillars. You have to make these big pillars all throughout the mine, and they're like support beams, because they're hundreds of feet underground, and you got all this dirt, and it's hard to to figure out that rock ceiling that was sitting there where they drilled that rock ceiling over time. Now it probably is one time thing, but that rock ceiling over time and whatever, that rock ceiling got thinner. So what they did, and then that was called the collapse. So what they did was the Mining Safety Health Administration came in and made them go up under all the mines and bolt all of those rock ceilings to stabilize them all in that what they call that K zone, because they went through all the other ones and they identified all those rock ceilings were fine, but they said just in this K zone we're going to bolt them, and some of them what they did was they drilled for thickness, and all of them with in just long drills, but all of them had the proper thickness, but as a precautionary. So I'm not saying they bolted them because they found some thin ones. They all were found to have the proper thickness, but they decided to bolt them anyway as
reinforcement.
As reinforcement. So once the plan is to, they got to address underneath how they can stabilize that in that particular area, and then they'll give us a report on how they're going to stabilize that, and then a report on how they're going to plan to repair the sinkhole.
Okay. So is there any in closing, is there anything you need to tell the people about is registering to vote, or any details about voting?
Yes, you can still register to vote. You can go down to the Scott Bibb Center now. I mean, when it's open, not now, but it's probably closed now, but it closed. But early voting, this is the last week of early voting, Monday through Friday. It is 8:30 to 6 p.m. You can come in during those times. If you're not registered to vote, you can register to vote, and then you can vote. And then the last early voting day is Saturday, the one we had Souls to the Poll, from 8:30 to 12. And then April 1st, polls open at 6 a.m., close at 7 p.m. And by the end of that evening, we're going to find out if I'm still in or there's somebody else. But it's imperative that, that we vote, because your vote is your voice. It's imperative. And I just encourage everybody to get out and vote, and shout out. I want them to vote. I want another 4 years to continue building upon the progress that we have made in these first 4 years, because it really takes. When you talk to mayors up and down the state, across the country, they always tell you that when you get in that first 4 years, you just trying to get
just filling it out.
Yeah, you really can't really put your platform really in place until your second term.
So this second term, that's when you're gonna turn it up. Yeah. Sure. Before we get up out of here, big announcement. People that's watching this and they know, July 26th, they got the Attila Fest at the Alton Amphitheater, headlined by Boosie. Announcing right now, Reason to Doubt podcast will be the official host of the Attila Fest. So shout out to the Lancey D. Smith Promotions. Shout out to the city of Alton letting them have a nice event like that at the Alton Amphitheater. In July 26th.
My birthday.
That's your birthday?
Me and my wife's birthday.
Oh, okay. July 26th. But Reason to Doubt will be the official host. Make sure y'all get y'all tickets when they go on sale. And that will be the second day of Reason to Doubt weekend. Reason to Doubt weekend will be July 25th through 28th. More details coming soon. We just thought we had to let y'all know that. But is there anything that you want to tell the city of Alton? One last remark, Mayor Goins.
It has been my honor and pleasure to serve these last 4 years, and if you would, I would love to have your vote so that I can continue doing the wonderful, amazing work that this administration has done. And thank you for the opportunity to serve this community, and thank you for this opportunity to let me come and talk with you all.
Our pleasure.
We appreciate you for coming through. Anything y'all got for Mayor Goins?
Just say thank you for coming to sit down with us. We've been building this platform for years now, and a lot of people overlook us, but you ain't gonna be able to do that too long. And like I said, you come and sit down with us. You're the mayor of the city. You decided to come sit down with us, and we really appreciate that. That's a big deal. And we on board with anything that you're trying to do as far as the youth and steering them in the right direction and being positive role models and letting them know if they can believe, they can achieve.
And the one thing I will leave this, they cannot say that I was not a mayor that didn't show up
For the people.
Because I promise you I tried to be at everything and was at everything. You
we
followed
seen you.
me on.
You was outside.
We seen you.
You was outside.
Yeah.
Grand
I
up.
was outside. I was outside.
You was outside.
That's what the kids call me.
Yeah, you was outside.
I was outside.
Yeah.
Hey man, this is the Reason Doubt Podcast. Always remember, just because they couldn't do it doesn't mean you can't. This is another episode of the Reason Doubt Podcast. Thank you for listening. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe, tell a friend, share this video, hit that like button.
On all platforms.
On all
TikTok
platforms.
going crazy.
On all platforms. Appreciate everybody, man. Thank y'all for listening. 1.